Hey, good morning, afternoon, and evening to all across the globe joining us for the next hour. My name is Tom Anderson, Director of Sales for the U.S. for Advantage Go. With the end of the year right around the corner, I'm very excited to be moderating this panel to hear from our guests about how COVID-19 has changed their businesses since March and how that is going to affect the 1/1 renewal cycle that we're about to enter. So without further ado, let me introduce our panel of experts. First up is Mamoun Rajeh, Chairman and CEO of Arch Worldwide Reinsurance Group and Arch Capital Group. Good morning, Mamoun.
Good morning, Tom. Thanks. Looking forward to our time together.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Next up is Rohit Verma, CEO of Crawford Company. Morning, Rohit.
Morning, Tom. Great to be with you.
Thank you for joining. Next up, Evan Glassman, President and CEO of New Paradigm Underwriters.
Hi, good morning, Tom. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming, Evan. Appreciate it. And finally, we have Dan Malloy, Chief Executive Officer of Third Point Re.
Hey, Tom. Good morning, and it's exciting to be on this panel.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Dan. I'm really excited to kind of hear all of your insights as it comes to where we are today and where we're headed. First off, before we jump into how COVID-19 is going to affect this 1/1 renewal cycle and moving forward with business, I do want to kind of take a step back and set a little bit of a foundation as to how has COVID-19 affected your businesses and how has it affected your jobs personally in terms of leading the organization since March, since we had to pivot literally almost a 180. So why don't I start with Mamoun? Just give us some thoughts as to, how have you had to change your leadership styles, or how has the company had to change from a leadership perspective due to COVID-19?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I think first of all, we've become a lot more communicative as a leadership team than we were even before the event. I mean, we look at this, months on, and we feel like we've gone through it with resilience, whether at Arch or through the industry. But at the time it happened, this was a cause for a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress for our teams globally. And what you realize is, it brings out the individuality of people, their personal, choices, their fears, their concerns, and the stress level. Bring your best to work when you have, family stresses to think about, childcare to think about, and the overall COVID fears at the time, and still today. And so I think what it has taught me the most as a leader is, just diversity and paying attention to diversity, in this case, diversity of thought and diversity of preferences and choices, and inflecting in a way as an organization to accommodate that, to find ourselves in places where choice matters for our employees, whether they choose to be in the office or work from home, for example. Our flexibility around thinking work from home, take Fridays from home going forward is something personally as a leader I'm much more open-minded to, given the effectiveness of our workforce during this period. So it brought us together in ways that one wouldn't expect as a result of this pandemic.
Great. Evan, do you have any thoughts on that as to how your organization has had to pivot?
Yeah, a lot less travel. So we're doing a lot more than we did prior to this going on. But as an earlier stage company, the first thing that we did with the shutdown was just give assurances to everyone that their job is secure, they're financially secure. We're not making any changes there. Things will be different, but everyone is secure going forward. And just echoing the previous statement around being communicative. We have a lot more meetings than we did. We use video software, and we're communicating all day, every day. And I think that's the key.
No, it's going to be a real shock when next year I don't get to use rewards points to go on vacation. I'm with you on that travel. It's going to be very different next year. Dan, what are your thoughts on just pivoting during this COVID time?
Boy, yeah. I looked at the calendar when you asked the question, and it was 7 months ago today. We had our last in-person board meeting, and I remember COVID occupied about 45 seconds of that meeting. It was, it was that issue in China that there were a couple of cases in the U.S. And then I was in London 3 weeks later. It was March 13th, Friday the 13th. And that was, I think, my last in-person business meeting at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then off to dinner. So what a set of changes, it's sort of perspective. People bring their best game to work. What the biggest thing for me is almost like you break through that screen. So, some of the other than the fact that everybody talks when they're on mute. But over the last 7 months, our CFO's Siamese cat always jumps up on his lap, and you get to see people's husbands and kids and wives in the background. So it's almost like breaking through the screen of you get to see your colleagues as people rather than just people in the office, and their hopes and fears. I mean, the issue of what concerns them is not what necessarily concerns me or concerns somebody else. So you need to listen more. I mean, we had an open plan office, and in my whole career, face-to-face negotiation was always one of the hallmarks of our business. And I loved being within a dozen feet of my CFO and my chief risk officer and my chief actuary, because you could, before they hung up a phone call, you could get a sense of what was going on. Like, was that a good call or a bad call? Or when I leaned back after they hang up, I was halfway into the conversation already. The amount of extra effort one has to make to keep everybody updated in a world where you're not all together face to face is probably the biggest surprise for me. All that kidding aside, the other one is all the social changes, or the demand for diversity and inclusion and equity, which is all completely valid, is a whole nother layer on top of the day-to-day business. So that communicate often and keep communicating often is sort of been the biggest lesson that I learned.
No, great. The authenticity almost of mixing, business with your personal life because you're home. It's a fascinating time. I mean, I have gym class going on above me. My kids are supposedly in virtual gym right now, so it's just it's unreal. Rohit, any additional comments on that, just from an organizational perspective, from a leadership perspective, how you guys have had to pivot?
Well, first and foremost, we had an IT transformation where we moved everybody remote in about 2 weeks. We had long plans of getting this done. We have a big office in Manila, about 700 to 800 people in Manila that were all working in an office. So pivoting that was an extremely big deal. I think for me, the most interesting thing is that this period was a real test for organizations, which have always said that our people come first and our customers come first. Did that actually come true or not? Because if you didn't prioritize as an organization the health and safety of your employees first, if you didn't prioritize making sure that the commitments that you kept to your clients were kept, then all of those things that were, whether in your mission statement or your vision statement or your values, didn't really come through. So for us, that was really important. First and foremost, make sure that we deliver on the health and safety of our employees. As you can imagine, being a claims company, we have significant part of our workforce which is outside. Making sure that we procured and secured enough PPE for them was a new challenge for our procurement team, which had to be done. And I think as time has gone by, we've sort of started to become used to this new normal. I still remember, Dan is mentioning, I had a meeting in New York that was supposed to be the Monday after. So I think it was March 16th, and I told my admin to just move it back by 2 weeks because New York had just implemented a lockdown. And I said, don't worry, this will be over in 2 weeks. Just move it back by 2 weeks and we'll be back in New York. Obviously, as they say, rest is history. I'd never made that trip. But the airlines was kind enough to help us get a refund on that. But that to me is probably the biggest change, right? Which is, are you able to really meet the commitment that you made to your employees and made to your customers? And that's frankly been the real test.
No, fascinating. Thank you, guys. It's always good to hear just what has transpired, because so much has. And again, the value of people, and that's the wonderful thing about insurance. It's all about the people and the clients, and that's a big aspect of it. So then, I guess, kind of transferring off of that, how is the how has COVID and how has the pandemic, if you wish, affected either negatively or positively or something that you didn't even see, insurers' demand for reinsurance? Mamoon, why don't you take that one first?
Yeah. Well, we all need to recognize the event is still unfolding. And so the short answer is TBD. But the longer answer is, COVID is yet another, example of uncertainty in the world of risk taking. And I expect that demand for reinsurance will increase, and the need and preference for spreading risk will also increase. And the fascinating thing about this event itself, as I keep thinking through it, is it's the first multi-class, multi-line, and global event at the same time. And so it adds a dimension to accumulation that we just haven't seen in the past. And so it's yet one of those unknowns that, as a risk taker and a steward of capital, the industry just needs to think about, how do you smear that out? How do you spread that out? And how do you think about it? And I think reinsurance is an extremely effective way to do it. So we're having plenty of conversations with our broker partners and our clients. We're expecting demand for all the products that we sell to increase.
Great. Dan, do you have any additional comments on that in the sense of just, from your perspective on that one?
Yeah. The Mamoon used the term uncertainty, and the chairman of our board, Sid Sankaran, is an actuary by training, and one of the things he just was talking about before I got on this call was, I don't think anybody on this panel or in the audience would say that I think the uncertainty is less this year than last year. I mean, you can look at the contingency market. The idea that you would spread your risk around the globe because a shutdown in one region is going to not be connected with a shutdown in another region was proven to be incorrect. And in very stressed times, correlations emerge that in a normal day-to-day course of events doesn't appear to be the case. So we're learning as a result of the black swan. Really wasn't COVID. It was the kind of the globalized shutdown of the economy that was triggering an educatable moment. So I think in a world where uncertainty is higher, our product is valued more. And that would be absent the losses that are going through the system. So in addition to COVID, we now have 9 landfall events this year in the hurricane season. We've had my cat underwriter called up and said, "Oh, by the way, that Cat 4 just missed Tokyo and headed to Korea." I was, well, that wasn't even in the news. I didn't even see that one. And it's now to the point where you click on your screen in the morning and you go to the news feed and it's okay. What's it going to be today? So is that unprecedented, or is it reversion to the mean? I don't know, but certainly I think that we are a source of capital for people. We can deploy it very flexibly. And it's a lightly regulated business compared to those that our clients are in. So I think it's a moment for all of us to rise to the occasion. I mean, we, just as a small example, we announced recently that we've partnered with John Boylan, who is former head of casualty at Markel. He's setting up a company, Arcadian Risk Capital, to enter into the excess casualty and excess professional liability market, seeing a real opportunity as the market there is going through major changes. We were able to invest in his MGA and get approval from the BMA to enter into that line, all done virtually. I mean, I'm sitting in Colorado. John was in Ireland. The BMA was in Bermuda, and we got it done over the course of a few months. So I would have said those sort of things wouldn't be possible, but day to day, you roll up your sleeves and it gets done.